Welcome friends to another r/MaliciousCompliance video. Today we've got a great story involving looking at somebody's camera roll. But first, a story from Ho'osiwa. Go back to my section. Enjoy paying half of us to do nothing. My brother, 20-year-old male, and I, 22-year-old female, worked for a furniture factory last year. We were what they call summer technicians, meaning we were only scheduled to work for 3 to 4 months. He'd been working at the factory a couple weeks before I joined. We worked in different sections of the same department. This department had 5 or so sections. The important ones are the press, the saw, edging, and touch-ups. I forget the actual names for what we actually called what I'm calling the press and touch-ups. My brother worked with the press. His section dealt with gluing laminates on blocks of wood. Basically what his section did was glue the wood-looking fake sheet of laminate that goes on the top of tables to make the tables look like they aren't just made of wood chips packed together. His section produced about 800 parts on average during the first shift alone, the shift we worked. After gluing about 12 or so tables, they would be moved to the saws to be cut up into specific table shapes. This section had a lot of backlog because of how fast my brother's section worked. My section was edging. Here, one person glued rubber strips around the edge of the table, and another trimmed the rubber so that it fit the table, as in didn't cut into the wood and wasn't too much left on. My position in edging was as the second person. Our department produced about 300 parts on average during first shift. Edging always had the most backlog out of all the sections because of supply issues and the amount of table sheets my brother pushed out. He was the one always pushing his section to work faster because if they maxed out table space, they'd be able to go home early. After trimming the edging, the tables would be given to the next section to undergo inspections. Here, people would touch up small mistakes and scratches, outright reject the table if there was a flaw, and pass them on to be shipped. This section also always had a lot of backlog, but not as much as edging since these people also expected the edgers to touch up the tables before we passed them on. I got into many fights over this. Throughout the 3 months I worked there, the edging section was always the section that got the most crap for being slow. It didn't help that second shift didn't produce as much as they should have been, leaving us first shifters to carry the weight. The day this happened was on my brother and I's last day there. Miraculously, there was no backlog in edging. The tables we were able to work on came in shipments of 12 or so every other hour. We flew through those. As a result, the people in my section were left either doing nothing, cleaning, chatting, some took an early lunch break, etc. Basically, we were bored and had nothing to do. Also, because we didn't have any table to edge, the touch-up section behind us didn't have any table to work on either. That's 2 sections being paid to sit and twiddle their thumbs. I decided to go over to my brother's section and help out then if I could. My brother showed me what they were working on, how the machine runs, what to look out for, what they did to prep, everything. He told me I could help with the prep since the section needed experienced people to work with the press. His entire section was cool with me helping out, so we figured we were in the clear. Not even a couple tables into me helping, the department manager comes over and says, "OP, why are you over here? You're distracting them." I say I'm helping them out. There's nothing to do over there. We don't have any tables to edge. The department manager says, "Yes, you do. Saw 5 just finished a batch. Stay over in your section and do what you're supposed to do." With that, I said bye to my brother and his section and went over to my machine. Much to no one's surprise, there weren't any tables there. Saw 5 wasn't done with the batch yet. My coworker working on the machine with me wasn't there also. He was chatting with the ladies who worked in the touch-up section. The department manager, seeing that there aren't any tables ready, goes over to Saw 5 and lingers there until he's able to load up the tables and deliver them to my machine. After a couple of minutes of looking for my coworker, the edgers were hard to find that day because of the lack of work to do. We get to work on the stack. The batch takes us about half an hour to finish edging. With nothing to do again, my coworker and I just talked with each other and the other touch-up girls. I even took a half-hour bathroom break just for fun. For about the last 2 hours of my last shift, there was no work to be done, and instead of letting me help out other sections, I was paid to sit around on my phone, talk to coworkers, and take an extra lunch break. Before anyone comments that it's a safety concern, I'd seen people go from section to section helping people. The job I was going to do was help separate the table laminates, so I wouldn't have even been near the press. I don't know why our department manager was all up in arms about me being over in that section. Maybe he thought I was just there to distract people. I don't know though. I mean, any angle you look at this from, it's kind of impressive that the department manager turned down free work. A worker wants to actually overextend themselves and stay busy while you're actively paying them, and you shut it down. I guess the only excuse that I could fathom is maybe they didn't want somebody that wasn't as experienced in that area specifically over there trying to pick up slack and doing work that might be not as up to snuff as the people who are pumping crap out left and right over there. Do you guys think this department manager was out of their mind? Or do you think it is justifiable in some way to prevent OP from switching over to a different job that they don't normally do? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. Our next story is from Todos Los Tacos. Landlord wanted us to mow the lawn. In college, I rented a house with a couple of roommates. We probably should have looked into the landlord a bit further before renting, but it was a bit of a small college town where the college had outgrown the available housing, so we were desperate for whatever we could get. Shortly after signing the lease, a family member sent me an article about what a slumlord the landlord was, but there wasn't much to do about it at that point. In the end, they were slow and cheap about fixing things, but they pretty much left us alone, unlike some of the other college town landlords, so it wasn't too bad. The house had a small backyard. I believe that the yard once contained a lawn, but one of the consequences of the landlords refusing to put any time or money into that place was, when we moved in, the whole backyard was just a sea of tall weeds. This didn't really bother us, so we just left it. But apparently it bothered one of our neighbors because they went to our landlord, who sent us a letter telling us that, according to the lease, it was our responsibility to take care of it. I feel a bit bad for the neighbor here because they did have to live near this eyesore, but we didn't create the problem, and we didn't feel like it was our job to do something about it. So we took a look at the lease and found that it said, I'm paraphrasing here, this was a while ago, it is the tenant's responsibility to mow the lawn. After spending some time thinking about this, we came to the conclusion that what we had couldn't rightly be called a lawn, and the lease only specified that we were responsible for mowing the lawn. So we sent a letter back saying, we would be happy to mow the lawn if you would provide us with one. We didn't really want to have to mow a lawn, we didn't have a mower, and I'm sure the landlord would not have provided us with one, but by that point, we had to become familiar with how cheap and lazy they were, and we bet that they would rather ignore our neighbor than either argue with us about it or replace the weeds with a lawn. And we appear to have been correct, because we lived there for probably another 3.5 years, and we never heard another word about it. There are a couple of other funny stories about them, so here's another quick bonus story. They were trying to sell most of their properties out from under their tenants. At one point, they brought someone in to tour our house while we were living in it, and the landlord, while giving the tour, had the audacity to ask us how the house was heated. When we pointed to the crappy furnace, not the HVAC kind, basically just a box that got hot, they asked, aren't there baseboard heaters in the bedrooms? Which there was, in just one bedroom, upstairs, which never needed it because it was upstairs and all the heat ended up there anyways. Yeah, this is definitely a bad landlord, but at least it's bad in the sense that they just don't want to do anything, and not in the sense that they harass you, they spy on you, they're creepy or whatever. I mean, yeah, it sucks that they're not gonna do anything, but at least they leave you alone, right? Good enough that you spent 3.5 years there. This next story is from Axolian. Just do what the manager says. This was about 20 years ago. I worked at a big red plug computer store in customer service. We had a real problem with too many managers always telling us different ways to handle things. One would always say price match. Another would say stick to the script. They would constantly come up with bad ideas or make work. So being in customer service, we would use our best skills to try to figure out the reasoning, and in most cases get them to make a different decision and think it was their idea. We had some truly bad ideas come our way, like Jack, who decides we should throw out all of the service items older than 30 days, which was against corporate policy. Two of us brought this up to the store manager who handled it, but then had a full store meeting where he singled us out as always, questioning the managers and never getting anything done. And everyone should just do what the manager says. Well, the compliance comes in just after Thanksgiving. This time, between Black Friday and Christmas, was our busiest time of year. Huge amounts of stock coming through, tons of materials and boxes, everyone working early and staying late. Our back room is completely full of cut open boxes, inventory all over the place, service items on shelves, and we're sorting. Jack comes in and says he wants to upgrade our shelves and make us more efficient, so we'll stop slacking, and has us start taking these industrial shelves apart. He tells us this is our priority, nothing else gets done until these shelves are in the trash compactor, and then leaves the store. There's 3 of us in our department, customer service, so we all start taking them apart as ordered. Every customer who comes up front is told we won't be able to help them today, and ask them to see a salesman, and every salesman who comes up front is told we're not allowed to help them. Everyone is furious, no credit cards, price overrides, saved slips, or even refunds are going through because they required us to act on them in the system. Jack is nowhere to be found. We get it done though. We tear that whole thing down and have all of these thick industrial beams stacked back at the trash compactor before store close. I ask my coworker, "Are we seriously going to put these in the compactor? It's going to explode." And he just says, "Yep." So we throw 4 beams in the compactor and turn it on. It was the loudest banging and screeching I think I've ever heard. Metal fighting metal. It was amazing and terrifying, and we stepped way back. Then it screamed and shut down, and we couldn't get it to open or even move again. The beams are just sticking straight out the front. But it's well past our scheduled time, so we just walk away and clock out. I honestly thought we were going to get fired over it, but instead the store manager, who enabled this in the first place, brought us in and asked us what the freak we were thinking. And we just explained that Jack gave us the orders, told us not to help anyone else, to get it done, and then disappeared. We did exactly as he told us so clearly in front of the entire store, to just do what the manager says. He told us to go back to the service area and figure out how to handle the stock since there weren't any storage or sorting areas anymore, and we never saw Jack again. It did cause us some pain though. We got yelled at by customers. The sales associates were unhappy with us for a long time. It took the entire month of the busiest season to get the compactor fixed, and we were stuck sorting service and floor stock with tape and receipt paper until new shelving units could be put in. But for some reason it felt good at the same time to just do what they said and let them suffer too. I like this story because honestly, sometimes you gotta act like a total moron just to prove a point. Despite going and wrecking everything and making their jobs harder, they very clearly displayed the horrendous leadership being put on. And our final story of the day is from the Best Possum. Wanna see my camera roll? Sure, hope it won't make you sick. I was riding a train and playing on my phone. I must have held it suspiciously because the dude across from me suddenly told me to stop taking pictures of him. I wasn't, and I told him so. He didn't believe me. It went back and forth. Him demanding to delete the pictures, me insisting there weren't any pictures of him to delete. Then he said, "Okay, show me the camera roll." And I swear if one of the pictures is of me, and I said, "You definitely don't want to see this." He said, "Nice try, but it won't work. Show me or I'll call the train personnel." I say, "Okay, sir, if you really insist." See, I was traveling back from a festival, and I had lost one of my toenails after being barefoot in the mosh pit. Smart move, I know. And had taken a pic of my empty, slightly mangled nail bed. I even clicked on it in order to enlarge. Well, let's just say he wasn't pleased. He didn't throw up or anything, but he looked pretty disgusted and didn't say anything and avoided my gaze for the rest of the ride. Okay, let's be honest. You and I all thought that this story was going to go in a different kind of photography section. The kinds of photos that, frankly, you could just catch a charge for if you just went around showing people. Nope, everything's fine here. It's just a toe, nail, bed. Kinda serves them right for accusing, but also, I know if it felt like somebody might have been taking a picture of me, I'd want to know too. I wouldn't call them out on it though. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another compliance story that was way crazier than any of the ones in this video, click on that left video. Or if you missed my latest video, check out the one on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.